Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always?
Today, we're taking a look at the world of programming.
Yeah.
But we're going to be focusing on two specific concepts, subroutines and functions. And to make things even more interesting, we're not using some boring old textbook this time. Nope. We've got a transcript from an introductory PowerBASIC video series.
Awesome.
Pretty cool, right?
Behind the scenes stuff.
Exactly. We're going behind the scenes to see how programmers actually learn this stuff.
Love it.
Now I know what you might be thinking.
What's that?
I'm not a programmer. Why should I care about subroutines and functions?
Right.
But trust me, this is about more than just writing code.
It is.
It is. It's about understanding how these concepts show up in everyday life.
Oh, okay.
How we break down complex tasks, how we organize information.
Interesting.
How we even think. The source material does a great job of explaining this.
How so?
Well, it compares the structure of a program to a book.
A book?
Yep, just like a book has chapters, paragraphs, sentences.
Right.
A program has its own kind of structure.
Okay, so...
And that structure is what helps make it readable, understandable.
Makes sense.
And maintainable.
So where do subroutines and functions fit into all of this?
That's what we're going to find out.
I'm intrigued.
One of the first things the source mentions is this thing called the PB main function.
PB?
Yeah, it's like the first page of our programming book.
The starting point.
Exactly. It's where the program starts executing instructions.
Okay, I'm following.
But imagine if you tried to cram all of your code,
oh boy,
all those instructions into this one single function.
It'd be a mess.
It would be a total, like trying to read a book.
With no chapters.
Or paragraphs. Just a giant wall of text.
Oh, I hate those.
Me too.
Yeah.
So how do programmers avoid creating those code monster books?
So that's where subroutines come in. Yeah, think of them like chapters in a book.
Okay.
Each subroutine is like a little mini program that handles a specific task.
I see.
The source gives a great example, actually.
Oh.
3 subroutines named subdue some things, subdue some more things, and subdue the last things.
Those names.
Right. But they make sense. You know exactly what each subroutine is supposed to do just by looking at the name.
Yeah, it's like seeing chapter 1, chapter 2 in a book. You'd have no idea what was coming next.
Exactly. So these subroutines, they get executed in order, just like you read a book.
Chapter by chapter.
Yep, one after the other.
So a subroutine could be like, I don't know, loading a file.
Exactly. It could have a bunch of lines of code all dedicated to loading that file.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is. And it gets even better.
How so?
Subroutines aren't just for one-time use. They're reusable.
Reusable?
Yep. So if you need to load a file in different parts of your program...
You don't have to write the code over and over again.
Exactly. You just call the subroutine.
Wait, call the subroutine. How do you do that?
Well, there's this keyword call.
Call.
Yeah, it's like putting a big sign in front of the subroutine that says, execute this now.
So it's like using headings and subheadings in writing to guide the reader.
You got it.
Yeah.
Makes the code much easier to follow.
Especially when you have, like, thousands of lines of code.
Oh, yeah, it can get really complex.
So subroutines are all about efficiency, reusability, and making the code more user-friendly.
Even if the user is another programmer.
Right. Okay, this is all making sense so far.
Good.
But the source also mentions functions.
Ah, yes, functions.
Are they similar to subroutines?
In a way, yes.
But there's a key difference, right?
There is. The source says that functions can actually return a value.
Return a value?
Yep. It's like they give you back information.
Interesting.
Think of it like a little machine.
A machine.
You give it some input.
Okay.
It processes it. And then it spits out a result.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Good, good.
So it's not just performing a task, it's also giving you back valuable information.
That you can then use in other parts of the program.
Gotcha.
For example, imagine a function called calculate age.
Calculate age.
You give it someone's birth date as input.
Right.
And it returns their age as output.
Pretty straightforward.
Exactly. And then you could use that age for all sorts of things.
Like what?
Well, you could check if they're old enough to vote.
Makes sense.
Or calculate their retirement date.
Right. So it's not just about doing something, it's about the information you get back.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important point.
Which is?
Data types.
Yeah,
the source mentions how functions can return different types of data.
Like what?
Like strings for text, numbers for calculations, and even true or false values.
True or false. What would those be used for?
Well, like in that voting example,
right.
You could have a function that checks if someone's age is greater than or equal to the voting age. And then what?
And then it returns true if they are.
Okay.
Or false if they're not.
So the program is making decisions based on that true or false value.
You got it. That's what's known as conditional code execution.
Conditional code execution.
It's like those turn to page 10 if the monster catches you instructions in those old game books.
I remember those. So based on the output of the function,
the program decides what to do next.
Wow, this is getting pretty complex.
It is, but it's also really elegant, right?
Yeah, starting to see that.
Each part of the program working together.
Passing information back and forth.
Exactly.
It's making me think about how we use information in everyday life.
How so?
Well, like checking a recipe to see if we have enough ingredients before we start cooking.
I like that. And just like a recipe needs specific ingredients.
Functions often need specific pieces of information.
To work correctly.
And those are called?
Parameters.
Parameters. The source mentioned those but didn't really explain them. Well, that's a topic for our next deep dive.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to get even more interesting.
I'm hooked.
Awesome.
But before we move on to part 2, can we just quickly recap what we've learned so far?
Of course. What do you want to cover?
So subroutines are like little mini programs that perform specific tasks. They're reusable and help make code more efficient.
Right.
Functions are similar.
Yes.
But they also return a value.
Which can be used for all sorts of things.
Like making decisions.
Exactly. Conditional code execution.
Right. And both subroutines and functions can use parameters.
Yes. But we'll get into those in more detail next time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. This is fun.
It is. All right, folks, that's it for part 1 of our deep dive into subroutines and functions.
Stay tuned for part 2.
We'll be back soon with even more insights from our behind-the-scenes look at PowerBASIC.
See you then.
Bye for now.
Bye.